Welcome if this your first time on the channel. Today we are listening to Tom Brady talk what it takes to be the greatest of all time. And he's talking mentality stuff. He's talking the things that we can't see that I really think people need to hear. So let's listen to Tom Brady. Make sure you subscribe if this your first time here. Click that like button because that's how they push the video. Let's go.
It's just interesting because it's a ridiculous debate, and I see it on sports all the time, and it's like everyone's just blah, blah, blah. Like 1 year, like there were greatness defined over what, over a career. Like I was on a thing with Peyton Manning this week, and we were talking about the Mount Rushmore of NFL receivers, including tight ends.
Yep.
And there was a lot of great arguments going back and forth about, Jerry Rice has great stats, but he was obviously in it. And I picked Gronk as one of mine, but Tony Gonzalez has way more catches than him. It's just, are we talking about over a period of time or 1 year, one game?
Yeah, what's the metric?
What's the metric?
Yeah.
And I think everyone defines that a little bit differently.
I think our producer Dylan has something for you.
How would you define the difference between greatest and best?
Yeah.
How would you define the greatest and best?
That's an interesting.
Oh, you nailed that, Dylan.
Yeah. I just think it's how often can you be great? How often can you be great?
Consistency.
Because
Consistency of greatness.
everyone can do great things.
Yep.
But if you're a golfer and you make a birdie and then a bogey and then a birdie, then a bogey, then a birdie bogey, at the end of the day you shoot par and you're average.
Right.
If you make 2 birdies for every bogey, it's a great round. If you make 3 birdies for every bogey, so we all make bogeys. This question is, how many birdies can you make? And in football, I would say I threw 700 passes a year. In my mind, I threw about 10 to 20 of those perfectly. Out of 700.
That's crazy.
So 680 times was imperfect.
That's crazy.
Now,
Tom to
you
say
may
that
not
crazy.
know where I was trying to throw the ball. You may think, man, he threw a perfect pass. In my mind, I had a vision for that pass that was different than what happened. So
That's
my
interesting.
view of being great is how often can the artist replicate perfection on a daily basis? And I think greatness comes from different things. It's
Nice.
not just physical. There's a mental, emotional aspect as well to being great. You can't be a peak performer if you're not competitive every day. There were some of the best physical athletes I ever had that were not competitive every day. There were some of the lesser physical athletes that were competitive every day. And those lesser physical athletes who were competitive every day were champions. They won multiple Super Bowls. Who's a great example of that? Julian Edelman. Wasn't the biggest, wasn't the fastest, tough, competitive, grimy, 3 Super Bowls. So he was a champion, but people would say, well, Calvin Johnson was more physically gifted. There's a lot of them out there, but Julian's a champion. So I don't know. Everyone gets to define it how they want to.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. Tom got kind of crazy at the end. Julian Edelman, and then he said Calvin Johnson. In football, it's a lot that go into that because it's so much impact in whether you win a championship. Calvin Johnson didn't have Tom Brady either. Calvin Johnson didn't have Bill Belichick either. Calvin Johnson didn't have the defense that the New England Patriots had all them years. It's football. So a wide receiver is only impacting on offense, and they can only impact so much because the quarterback got to get them the ball, the offensive lineman got to block the defense, got to have some type of fear against the run, right? So it's a lot that goes into a wide receiver winning a championship. The kicker got to kick good, special team. Tom, come on, dog. You can't tell me that Julian Edelman is better than Calvin Johnson because he just played on a better team with better players. Or Randy Moss. Randy Moss don't got a championship. He's the best wide receiver I've ever seen. I think he's the greatest wide receiver ever. You can't tell me, and I know it's some Jerry Rice, but Jerry Rice played with Joe Montana and then Steve Young. Randy got Tom Brady for 2 years, maybe a year, then Tom broke his leg. Then he played with, I think it was Matt Castle or something like that. So he didn't have them quarterbacks that can stand up and be great that you could compare to Joe Montana and Steve Young for his entire career. But he didn't get a championship because he didn't play good. Tom Brady didn't play good in the championship game in 07. So it's like, yo, we gonna just put it all on Randy? Like, I don't get that. But the other things that Tom Brady was talking about, I totally agree with. Like the defining great and then best, you know, because it's a difference, right? I think Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but the best player I ever seen was Kobe Bryant, you know? So I do think it's a difference. I would never say Kobe's the GOAT, though. But I would say, yo, he's the best player I ever seen. Those are two different words. You know, do y'all look at them the same? I know some people look at the greatest and the best as the exact same, but I don't. I look at greatest as great, best is best, dominant is dominant. That's why Shaq always be like, yo, I'm the most dominant ever. You know, so I think words have meaning, you know, and they mean different things. But he talked about the mentality. Yeah, all of those things, yeah, for sure. But when he went to the Julian Edelman, Calvin Johnson comparison, I'm just like, whoa, that's crazy, you know. But do y'all agree with him? Because I could be wrong. I could be tripping. Like, yo, Julian Edelman is on the same level as Calvin Johnson. You know, people might feel like that. I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments. As always, if this your first time here, make sure you sub to the channel. Click that like button. Y'all be easy. Be safe.